Welcome into the Daily Dish. Jeremy Warner, Joey Wagner. We continue our player preview series for Illinois basketball with the fifth of the five returners for Illinois basketball. And the one, even probably more so, that we know less about than Dane Danger, who we talked about in the last one, Joey. And that's Brandon Lieb. Returns for his third season. I think some people fairly, we'll put it out there, are surprised Brandon Lieb could be back, but certainly there's an opportunity after Benjamin Bosmans-Verdonk leaves the program, committed to South Carolina. There is an opportunity for Brandon Lieb to maybe have that role as a third center. But Brandon Lieb's biggest impediment right now is he's just thin. He's a 7-footer who's at 220, 225 pounds right now. But certainly, Joey, there's a lot of work ethic there. He's been a program guy. I think people in the program really like his work ethic. But is he going to have a role? As of right now, I would say I'm not counting on Brandon Lieb to play a big role. But he's certainly a kid who's been committed to the process of trying to eventually find a role in Illinois' post-rotation.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, there's a reason they're looking for answer big men. And, I don't know how much you're going to rely on Brandon Lieb next year. I think, in theory, conceptually, what he showed his skill set is he can step out a little bit. That's appealing. If you're just looking at things that he can do or has done in the past that are appealing, that ability to step out, stretch the floor, hit some shots, that's okay. There's something you can see where that would be, especially here's, I guess, the argument that you could look around if you're trying to project with him. He didn't fit as a straight sub in the Big Ten for Illinois' offense last year, which was centered around the center position, centered around Kofi Coburn, getting the ball, letting him bang around down there and get that just wasn't what Brandon Lieb's body allowed him to do. Could you make an argument that as they get to maybe a little bit more quote unquote 5 out, that would maybe fit him differently in a better way? Sure, but I still don't know how much you're relying on junior year Brandon Lieb. If you can get a pleasant surprise couple minutes out of him, hey, I don't think Brad Underwood's going to be upset about that. I just think that we have to set the expectation that we just don't see a lot right there, or see a lot of, impact next season.
Yeah, I think your hope would be that there's a Maverick Morgan leap here somewhere, but we just haven't seen any signs of that, right? He also could end up being someone like Matisse Vasile or Sam Kane, who he just never really had the physicality for the Big Ten. So I think you just like to have someone who can go in as a third option and give you some solid minutes when, two guys get in foul trouble. But you're right. I'm not projecting a big role for Brandon Lieb, and he can go prove us wrong, right? And I think that's what he's trying to do. I think he's probably got to gain about 15 to 20 pounds in the offseason, and this has been a long, process for him to do so. But I just think he's got to have a more solid base physically. I don't think he's ever going to look like Benjamin Bosmans-Verdonk in his top half, but he's got to be able to withstand some of those centers in the Big Ten, just to be able to do that. But he thinks, some of his quickness can maybe help him against some of those guys, but you just got to be able to prove it. There's a lot of developmental centers. He's a kid that did redshirt technically, even though he played some games as a freshman. I think you're just hoping to see some competence when he gets on the court at some point this year that makes you think, hey, maybe next year, maybe as a junior, senior, like Robert Archibald did, he can turn into somebody that you can put on the court as a rotation player.
Yeah, I'm really interested if they can, some of these cupcake non-cons, there's probably won't be a ton of them, but a few. I'm really interested if he's a better fit in this new offense that we think they're going to run. I think there is an argument to be made there that he could be somebody who could go out there for a couple minutes in a pinch where, you're not asked to go in the post. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We knew when he committed that, okay, he's going to really have to change his body. This isn't a surprise in the sense of the development. And, he was a late take in the class. We'll see if that ultimately, that doesn't always ensure that it pays, that it ends up paying out on the floor. But you do have to, I feel kind of bad as we're all saying it, but you do have to applaud.
Absolutely.
I mean, the kid's worked his butt off, dude. He went in there against Kofi Coburn every single day in practice. I don't think he's happy Kofi is leaving because, obviously Illinois is better and he wants to win. His chest might be happier that Kofi Coburn's leaving. Because I think goodness gracious, that kid probably had a lot of ice baths after practice, but he stayed with it, man. He has stayed with it, and credit to him. And he has changed his body. I mean, that definitely has changed. I was kind of, when we were talking to him last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, I was like, oh man, one, this is a really tall kid. Number two, he's not this thin, will be taken away by the biggest gust of wind in Champaign kid either. Like he's filled out a little bit. It's just some more to go. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, the staff has raved about his attitude, his work ethic. I think he's got a voice a little bit. I think he's going to have that. He's talked about, hey, I'm a veteran now on this team, and I got to show that every day. So I think he's a positive to have inside the program. Now it's just about, hey, can he find a role on the court? I think a lot of that's going to have to do with physicality, adding more of that, and a lot of it's going to have to do with confidence. And I agree with you, Joey. I think if anybody wants to get minutes early in the season and some blocks, it's going to be Brandon Lieb to gain some confidence moving forward. And we will cover all of that right here at IlliniInquirer.com.